Captain Elias Varon sat in the cramped observation room of the Varkan dreadnought, staring at the endless stretch of black space. Stars glittered like tiny fires in the void, and the distant swirl of a nebula painted streaks of red and gold across the darkness. He had been on countless missions before, but nothing had prepared him for this. The Aurelian fleet was vast, made up of alien species each more advanced than humanity, and yet here he was, the only human captain among them, quietly dismissed as a weak species by his peers. The insectoid strategist Keltor leaned over the console beside him, his many eyes glinting in the dim light. "Humans," Keltor hissed, his tone dripping with disdain, "are unpredictable, emotional. They cannot survive in war like this." Elias did not answer. He had heard these words all his life. The aliens considered humans fragile, primitive, even foolish. But he knew differently. Humans adapted, learned, and survived against impossible odds. That had been his life. That was humanity's life. A shrill alarm echoed through the ship. The holographic map in front of Elias flickered, showing a massive red wave spreading across the fleet's perimeter. The Jakar Dominion had arrived. "They are here," said Keltor. "Prepare your unit for the outpost. It will fall quickly." Elias's jaw tightened. The outpost was a small observation station, positioned on a barren asteroid at the edge of the war zone. It was weakly defended, with just enough soldiers to give the impression that someone cared. Humans had been sent there as cannon fodder, and yet for Elias, surrender was never an option. The transport ship rumbled as it docked. Elias led his team of human marines aboard the outpost. They were young, inexperienced, and under-equipped, but their eyes burned with determination. "Remember," Elias said, looking each of them in the eye, "we are not here to die quietly. We are here to fight. We are humans. That means we do not give up." The soldiers nodded. They trusted him. In this war, trust was rare. For the first hour, nothing happened. The outpost hummed with the low vibrations of machinery, and Elias checked the sensors over and over. Then, without warning, the sky outside lit up with streaks of red as Jakar ships dropped from the darkness. They were massive, insect-like vessels, their hulls glinting with a strange, organic shine. Swarms of smaller attack drones followed behind, moving like a living cloud. "Shields at maximum," Elias ordered. "Prepare turrets. Get ready to hold them off." The first wave hit with a deafening roar. Energy beams tore through the asteroid's thin atmosphere. The outpost shook violently. Aliens in the fleet's observation screens muttered in panic. Keltor barked orders, but his voice trembled. They had never faced the Jakar up close. Elias moved with calm precision. "Alpha Team, cover the east turret. Bravo Team, west. Keep your heads aimed steady," the humans fought. They were slower than the drones, fewer in number, and their weapons were outdated. But they had something the Jakar did not expect: instinct, courage, and refusal to give in. Elias moved from station to station, patching shields, giving orders, and at times firing his own weapon when a drone slipped through. Hours passed. The outpost suffered heavy damage. Explosions rocked the station and alarms blared continuously. Half of Elias's team was already down, wounded or trapped under debris. Yet the humans kept fighting. Each moment they held gave the fleet above time to maneuver, to evacuate civilians from nearby colonies. Elias climbed to the main observation deck, scanning the battlefield. A massive Jakar carrier descended, its hull bristling with weapons. "They are trying to crush us," he said. His voice was calm but firm. "We will not let them." He formulated a plan. Using the remaining energy from the outpost's old defense systems, he would create a trap. Lure the carrier into the asteroid's gravitational pull, overload the turrets, and hit it with everything they had. It was risky, suicidal even, but there was no other choice. "Listen up," Elias called to the survivors. "We are going to make them pay for every inch. Follow my lead and we survive together." The humans nodded again. Fear was there, but it was buried under determination. They had seen Elias survive impossible missions before. They trusted him. The Jakar carrier moved closer. Turrets blazed, energy beams streaking across the void. Elias's plan was in motion. He gave the order to overload the outpost's main reactor. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and for a moment the station seemed to shudder as if it could not hold the power. Then, chaos. The carrier was pulled into the asteroid's gravity, shields faltering. Human guns, though few, found every weak point. The Jakar screamed in alien sound, drones exploding in showers of fire, Elias's team fought like legends. They were beaten, exhausted, but every hit they scored counted. Hours of battle passed, and slowly the tide turned. The Jacquard were forced to retreat, leaving behind wreckage and fire. The outpost was destroyed. Mostly. Only fragments of walls and corridors remained, smoking and battered. Elias stood among the ruins, covered in soot and blood, breathing heavily. Around him, the surviving humans tended to their wounds, exhausted but alive. A communication screen flickered to life. It was Keltor. His many eyes were wide. You survived," he said, voice trembling. "How?" Elias wiped a streak of blood from his forehead and looked at him calmly. "We didn't survive because we are strong," he said. "We survived because we refused to give up." The fleet command watched in silence as the human captain transmitted a full report from the ruined outpost. His words were simple but powerful. "We are not dead yet. Permission to counterattack." For the first time, the aliens paused, seeing the humans differently. Perhaps they were not weak. Perhaps they were something else entirely. Something dangerous, something unstoppable. Elias looked up at the stars. The battle was over for now, but the war had just begun. And the galaxy had already begun to learn a simple truth. Humans did not surrender. Humans did not quit. Humans did not stop fighting. Not for themselves, not for each other, not for anyone. As the first transport shuttles arrived to evacuate civilians, Elias turned to his team. "We hold the line," he said. "That is what humans do. That is what we will always do." And in that moment, amid the smoke, fire, and ruins, the human soldiers smiled, knowing that despite the odds, they had survived, and more importantly, they had shown the galaxy what humanity was capable of. The stars outside did not seem so distant anymore. They were within reach. Captain Elias Varen floated inside the shuttle bay of the Aurelian fleet, watching the endless black of space stretch out before him. His body was still bruised and sore from the battle at the outpost, and every scar ached like a memory of pain. Yet despite everything, he felt alive. He had survived where others had fallen. And now the fleet had given him a new mission, a mission they expected him to fail. The mission was simple in words, impossible in reality. A deep strike behind enemy lines. A small human-led team was to plant a disruption beacon in the heart of the Jacquard Dominion's hive. The beacon would interfere with the hive's coordination, giving the fleet time to retreat safely from a sector overrun with Jacquard drones. "Captain Varen," the fleet commander said, his many limbs tapping nervously on the holographic console. "The odds of survival are minimal. This is a human mission. We expect no casualties. Or rather, we expect no humans to return." Elias's jaw tightened. He had heard that tone before, pity disguised as caution. But pity had never stopped a human before. "Understood," he said. "We will do what must be done." He turned to his team. 6 humans, selected from the fleet's volunteers, all younger than him but hardened by training and fire. They looked at him with trust, the kind of trust that made a soldier willing to face impossible odds. "We go in fast," Elias explained, pointing at the holographic map of the Jacquard hive. "We plant the beacon. We leave nothing behind. And we return alive." One of the soldiers, a young woman named Mara, looked uneasy. "Captain," they said, "the hive is invincible. The drones can adapt to anything." Elias smiled faintly. "Then we do what no one expects. We adapt faster." The shuttle slipped into the darkness, moving quietly through space. The stars seemed colder here, distant and indifferent. The humans knew they were entering a place where death waited on every side. And yet no one spoke of fear. Hours passed. The hive loomed ahead, a massive structure floating like a dark, jagged mountain in space. Its surface pulsed with energy, and thousands of Jacquard drones swarmed in intricate patterns like bees guarding a massive nest. "Shields up," Elias ordered. "Engage stealth mode. We go in quiet or we go in dead." The shuttle hummed softly, slipping past the outer defenses. For a moment, it seemed the mission might succeed without incident. But then the hive sensors detected them. Red lights flared across the surface and a warning shriek echoed through the shuttle. "They've spotted us," Mara whispered. "Stay calm," Elias said. "Do not fire unless necessary. Move fast." The shuttle descended, skimming over the jagged surface. The humans prepared their weapons, each pulse rifle loaded and ready. As they touched down, the ground shook violently. Jacquard drones swarming in every direction. "Move," Elias shouted. They ran toward a hollowed cavern in the hive, dodging energy blasts and swarming drones. The air inside the hive was thick and humid, filled with a faint metallic smell. The walls pulsed with energy, alive, reacting to their presence. Hours became minutes as they raced through twisting tunnels. They planted small explosives to slow the drone's pursuit, every step calculated, every move deliberate. Yet the hive adapted. The corridors shifted, energy barriers rose, and more drones appeared from nowhere. "Captain," Mara panted, "they're anticipating our every move." "We can't," Elias cut her off, raising a hand. "Then we do something they can't anticipate. Something human." He paused, thinking fast. The beacon they carried required a stable platform for activation. But the hive offered nothing stable. Then he saw it, a massive chamber filled with dormant energy cores untouched by the drones. "The perfect target, here," he said, pointing. "We use the cores. We force them to react. We create chaos," the team nodded. With speed and precision, they carried the beacon into position. Elias set the timer and detonated nearby explosives, sending a shockwave of energy through the chamber. Drones scrambled, swarming toward the disturbance, but it was too late. The beacon activated, pulsing a signal that disrupted the hive's coordination. Jakar drones began attacking each other in confusion. Energy weapons fired blindly, corridors collapsed, and the hive's perfect order shattered. Elias watched, heart pounding. "It's working," he whispered. "They don't know what to do." Yet victory came at a price. The explosion destabilized the chamber, sending debris crashing down. 2 of the soldiers were trapped. Elias ran to them, lifting heavy beams, his strength fueled by desperation and resolve. They emerged, battered but alive. "Captain," one of the soldiers said, voice trembling. We did it, we really did it." Elias shook his head, looking at the glowing beacon. "We did more than it. We survived because we refused to stop." They had planned to leave quietly, but the hive was in chaos. The humans saw an opportunity. Using the confusion, they struck the Jakar from unexpected angles, destroying drones and sabotage points along the way. Each action bought the fleet more time. Hours later, they reached their extraction point. The shuttle hovered, shields at maximum, engines ready. The humans climbed aboard, bruised, bloodied, but undefeated. "Return to fleet," Elias ordered. "Inform them, humans are not to be underestimated." The journey back was tense. The hive still tried to pursue them, but the beacon signal caused disarray among the drones. The humans had done the impossible, struck deep behind enemy lines and returned alive. When the shuttle docked with the fleet, the aliens aboard stared in disbelief. Keltor approached, eyes wide. "You survived," he repeated, incredulous. "You and your team against the Jakar hive itself?" Elias looked at him calmly. "We survived because we did what humans do best. We think fast, we fight hard, and we never ever stop." The fleet commander nodded slowly. "Perhaps we underestimated your species. Perhaps we were wrong." Elias allowed himself a small smile. He knew better than to trust sudden respect. The war was far from over. There would be more battles, more impossible missions. But for now, humanity had proven itself again. Clever, fearless, unstoppable. Weeks later, reports from the front lines confirmed the results of the mission. The Jakar hive fractured. Drone coordination collapsed. Entire fleets of the enemy retreated or were destroyed by their own mistakes. Humans, led by Elias and his team, had struck a blow that no alien species had dared attempt. And yet Elias did not celebrate. He walked the corridors of the fleet, checking on his team, tending wounds, and preparing for what would come next. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and the Jakar were relentless. But humans had a spark, a fire that could never be extinguished. And that fire burned brightly in him. As the stars stretched endlessly beyond the fleet, Elias made a silent promise. The Jakar would learn fear. They would learn unpredictability, and the universe would remember that humanity did not surrender. Humanity did not retreat. Humanity fought, and it fought like nothing else. Captain Elias Varon floated above the ruined world of Nareth, staring down at the battlefield below. Smoke rose from shattered cities, and the air was thick with the acrid smell of burning metal. Jakar drones patrolled the skies, their numbers reduced but still dangerous. For weeks, humanity and the fleet had been fighting a losing battle. But Elias had survived where others had fallen, and he had a plan. The humans aboard the fleet whispered about him in awe. Aliens who once dismissed humans as weak now watched him with caution, and some even with respect. "The human captain, he doesn't think like the rest of us," said one alien officer quietly. He strikes where we would never dare. Elias did not smile at the praise. His mind was focused on one thing: winning. Not just surviving, not just fighting, but changing the war. He gathered his team in the shuttle bay. The 6 humans who had survived the Hive mission stood before him, their faces tired but determined. They had seen death up close, lost friends, and yet they were still ready to follow him anywhere. "Here's the plan," Elias said, pointing at the holographic map. "The Jacquard Hive has a weakness we discovered during our strike. They fear unpredictability. Their drones can adapt to any weapon, any tactic, but not to chaos. Not to humans. We are going to use that." Mara, one of his soldiers, raised an eyebrow. "Chaos against thousands of drones? That sounds suicidal." Elias smiled faintly. "Then it's perfect. We don't fight them the way they expect. We make them fight the way we want. Confusion is our weapon." The shuttle slipped silently into the atmosphere. Below, the city lay in ruins, a skeleton of buildings and streets. Drones patrolled, their lights scanning for any sign of life. Elias's team disembarked, moving quickly and quietly. They set small charges and traps, luring drones into ambushes and using the wreckage of the city to hide. Every step brought risk. Every corner could be the last. But humans thrived in risk. They improvised, adapted, and survived. Hours passed. The drones grew frustrated. Their hive mind could not anticipate the humans' moves. Elias led his team through twisting alleys and collapsed buildings, striking quickly and vanishing before the enemy could respond. At the heart of the city, the main hive structure rose like a dark fortress. The pulse of energy was strong, alive, and menacing. Elias knew this was where he had to strike. "Prepare the charges," he whispered. "We hit the core. We collapse the hive." Mara hesitated. "Captain, the core is heavily defended. We might not get out alive." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we make it count. If we fall, we leave them nothing. Humanity fights like this because we refuse to quit. Remember that." The team moved in, setting explosives around the core. Drones swarmed, but they were confused, striking at shadows and echoes. The humans moved like shadows themselves, striking with precision. Elias planted the final explosive and activated it. The chamber shook violently. Energy surged through the hive, drones screeching and colliding. The humans retreated through the chaos, dodging falling debris and blasts of energy. The explosion tore through the hive, collapsing corridors and tunnels. The Jacquard drones scattered, unable to coordinate, attacking each other in panic. It was a victory born of courage, instinct, and defiance. Elias and his team emerged from the wreckage, bruised and battered, but alive. They sent a transmission to the fleet. "The core is destroyed. The hive is fractured. The enemy is retreating." The aliens in the fleet watched in disbelief. Keltor approached, eyes wide. How did you do this?" Elias looked at him calmly. "We fought like humans. We adapted. We refused to stop. That is all you need to know." News of the mission spread across the fleet and beyond. Humans were no longer dismissed as weak. They were recognized as fearless, clever, and unpredictable. The name Elias Varan became a legend. In hushed voices across starships, alien officers spoke of the Varan Protocol, the human way of striking where enemies least expect. Weeks later, as the fleet regrouped, Elias walked through the corridors, checking on his team. Each soldier carried scars, but also pride. They had done what no one else thought possible. They had changed the course of the war. In a council meeting of the allied species, Elias stood as the only human. The leaders had come to recognize the truth. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The council leader, a tall crystalline being named Zelthar, addressed him. "Captain Varan, your actions have saved countless lives. Your species has proven itself invaluable. How do you lead humans to such success?" Elias shook his head. "We don't have super shields, perfect weapons, or endless fleets. What we have is determination. We don't surrender. We don't retreat. And we never stop trying. That is all it takes." The council was silent. Then one by one they nodded in understanding. Humans were different. Humans were dangerous. And now the galaxy had learned to respect that difference. Elias returned to his quarters, staring out at the stars. The war was not over and the Jacquard would return. But he felt hope. Humanity had shown what it could do. One human, one team, one spark of defiance could change the course of a war. He thought of his fallen comrades, those who had given everything for victory. He thought of the young soldiers who had survived, their eyes still bright with courage. And he made a promise not just to them, but to the stars themselves. Humanity will not stop. Not now, not ever. We will fight, we will adapt, and we will survive. Always. The galaxy, vast and indifferent, had witnessed a simple truth. It was written in the courage of one human captain, in the fire of a team that refused to give in, and in the unyielding heart of a species often underestimated. Humans never surrender. And as the fleet prepared for the next battle, the Jacquard retreated, shattered and confused, leaving behind a legend that would echo for generations. Captain Elias Varon, the human who fought like no other, and reminded the galaxy that courage can change the universe.